You are listening to Faithless Brewing, a Magic the Gathering podcast for the Spike Rogue. Each week we design new decks for tournament play. We put our creations to the test and share our findings on the air. Coming up on the Roundup, a first look at March of the Machines. How to prepare for your next paper RCQ. Plus new technology in Modern featuring unlikely heroes, Shining Shoal, and Graaz, Unstoppable Juggernaut. All of that and more is coming up on Faithless Brewing. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Faithless Brewing podcast. I am your host, Dan Schriever, also known as Cavedan, and I'm joined today all the way from Buenos Aires, Argentina. You know him as Morde to Light. It's Emmy Sagasti. Emmy, welcome.
Heyo, how's it going, Dan? Been a while. How's it going, bud?
Yeah, been a couple weeks. Doing well. How about you?
All good. Been a bit overwhelmed with work and such, but doing good, playing some Magic, got a beautiful 5-0 with goblins. So all is good.
Same thing we do every week. Get a 5-0 with goblins.
The same thing we do every single night, Pinky. Get a 5-0 with goblins. Oh, goblins.
Yeah, you've been crushing with that deck. I'm on the verge. I've had the cards in my shopping cart. Is today the day that I buy the cards I need and learn this goblins deck? Because it just sounds so sweet.
I'm trying to get more people into the goblin fiesta, but people don't want to follow me down that road. It's a dangerous road. Many 05s lay ahead.
You have to show them the way. You have to light the path.
Someone has to show them the way.
So we got a lot to get to today. Just a weekly roundup, but a lot of stuff happened this week. Some of it is Magic news, some is just our personal Magic journey. I played a few tournaments, getting back into paper Magic, finally. I'll tell you a little bit about what I've been playing and some of my thought processes preparing for some local events. We also had, just hours after we recorded last week's shows, a whole pile of previews dropped kind of unexpectedly during the Pro Tour stream. And we didn't cover them last week, so we are going to talk about the exciting cards there from March of the Machine. And after all that, I mean, there's so many sweet brews getting published these last few weeks. It's just a really exciting time. As we are exploring the cards from Phyrexia All Will Be One, there's so many sweet developments. We've got a couple decks picked out that have been crushing the modern events in Magic Online, and we will talk about all the latest tech.
Absolutely. How much did All Will Be One end up shaking the formats? As we're on the verge of new sets in the following months.
I'm very excited for this Juggernaut deck. I want to skip to that now, but okay, we got to go in order. Stick to the plan.
We want to skip, but we can't.
Yeah. All right, so a lot to get to. But before we get to all of that, let's just get our housekeeping out of the way right at the very top. We do have some new patrons we would like to welcome to the Faithless family. They are Jack H., Caleb C., David V., and IRL Green Creature. Also want to thank Bromac Courier for going up a tier in their pledge. So thank you all very much for your support. You got some new faces, some returning faces.
Some increasing faces.
Exactly. Patreon.com/faithlessbrewing. That's where you can sign up if you are enjoying the show, if you'd like to show us a little support. You get access to our wonderful Discord community. You can make a pledge at any tier you like. We also have rewards, we have merch, we have tokens, we have playmats. We have monthly projects where you can vote on cards. Actually, we are just wrapping up another vote. There's probably 1 day left in the voting as you're hearing this episode, so there's still time if you want to make your voice heard and help guide us towards the next great card to brew around.
Exactly. Right now, there seems to be a card pretty far ahead. We're not going to say which, but by the time you're hearing this, it might have been that card that will end up winning.
I think it's ahead by a few votes. Like a meaningful lead, but it's not insurmountable by any stretch.
Oh, absolutely. there wasn't a call to arms this time. There hasn't been a rally against certain cards. It has been a much more peaceful voting.
Yeah, it's been a more introspective round of voting this time. You know, a lot of people in the Discord discussing the kind of philosophy behind it. Like, what are they looking for?
Yeah, this one sort of was more philosophical, less marketing. There wasn't banners, there wasn't an all-out war for each single one of them.
Well, there was one like political banner, and actually I think that card is in the lead right now. So. Self-promotion works. You know, if you believe in your product, you got to go out and advertise it.
Make a good enough banner and you cannot lose.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we will have the winner for you next week, and we will start brewing with it. That's next week's show. Let's get into it for today. What do we got, Morde?
So right away, firing up, we have our weekly roundup with Dan going all on about his RCQ prep.
Yeah, so I recently moved to Texas and discovered that there's a great Magic scene here. Not only are there like numerous shops very close to me, Wizards Premier shops, but discovered that friend of the show and amazing brewer Lawson Zandy is also an Austin native, so got in touch with Lawson and we've decided to shake off the rust and just get back into the paper scene.
Right away.
Exactly. And there's a lot of events to go to. There's FNMs 2-3 times a week. Texas is a big state, so FNM can't just be contained to Friday. You have the Tuesday FNM, the Thursday FNM, and the Friday FNM. RCQ season is also in full swing. So I had one RCQ this past weekend that was Pioneer, and another one coming up in Modern this weekend.
And how are you going to go for it?
Well, that's the question, right? I'm pretty out of practice, I have to say, Morde. Not just myself shuffling paper cards, but even just updating my paper collection, getting decks assembled. So the thought process of like, what do I want out of these tournaments? You know, do I want to build a new deck? Do I want to learn a new deck? Do I want to buy new cards? Or do I just want to take what I already have and try to get it into fighting shape and, you know, just make a day of it and hope for the best? I'm still trying to wrestle with those questions myself. You know, Magic, especially paper Magic, is super expensive.
Oh yeah, it's super expensive and it's constantly shifting what you have to pay. Even playing Magic can be expensive sometimes. Like even when you own the cards.
Yeah, exactly, because you realize that, okay, I'm going to spend the entry fee for the event, which can be, you know, it can add up. And then if you're going to do that, you know, I want to at least have my deck more or less optimized the way I want. So I should buy that, you know, that extra land I'm missing, or that one sideboard card that may or may not come up, but, you know, that's going to be another $10 out the door. It definitely, you notice it on the credit card statement at the end of the month, the return to paper play.
If we have played enough Magic, you can tell in the end of the month statement.
Exactly. Yeah, we've been pleasantly insulated from all this thanks to playing online with rental services. But the return to paper. So for Pioneer, what did I do? Well, my personal experience as well as my paper collection is strongest in the Izzet colors. You know, I've played a lot of Izzet decks. I really like the Crackling Drake versions of Izzet, but I've played Izzet Phoenix off and on again. So after, you know, weighing the options of should I try to pick up a new deck or just go with what I have, I ended up choosing Izzet Phoenix. I have not really played this deck since the Expressive Iteration ban. It's been kind of floating around tier 2, 2.5 in the meta. You know, it's still like a deck that is out there, but it's not usually mentioned as one of the top decks.
Okay. But it exists. It's an existing deck.
Exactly. Definitely an existing deck. And I had a pretty good showing at the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
3 things were the questions I had going into the weekend. So first, does Izzet Phoenix still have that it factor after the Expressive Iteration ban? You know, does it still have the sauce where you can really feel like you're doing something overpowering and just get those easy wins? Expressive was by far the best card in the deck, and if you look at what Izzet Phoenix decks have to play to replace it, we're back on stuff like Chart a Course or Strategic Planning, Izzet Charm.
Clearly not the same power level.
Yeah, you really feel that Expressive Iteration just lets you fight through any kind of situation and just be like the best fair deck at the table, in addition to doing unfair graveyard stuff.
Yeah.
Now, we don't have that. We have to just rely heavily on pieces of the puzzle.
Which is significantly worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's It's good at what it does, but what it does is a lot worse than what EI does.
EI was good at doing anything, this one isn't.
Exactly. We did get some new toys. We have Ledger Shredder now. We have Brotherhood's End in the sideboard. But there are also new enemies out there in the metagame. Shale Dread in particular will just end the game if you don't have a Lightning Axe for it. And a lot of decks are now playing Unlicensed Hearse, whereas before, they might not have an attractive graveyard option.
Yeah.
According to the win rate matrix that Frank Karsten helpfully published from Pro Tour Phyrexia, Phoenix did pretty well. It had a 55% overall win rate. When you look at how it matched up against all of the most commonly played archetypes, it was even or positive, just slightly positive. So nothing amazing. It didn't make top 8. I think the best finishing Phoenix player was 8-2 in Constructed. And it didn't win any of the major events over the weekend. One player on Magic Online did do very well with his own take on Phoenix. That's a player named O. Danielakos, a Greek MTGO grinder. And when I looked at his results, I noticed that, well, A, he's been on Phoenix forever, and B, he went a different direction with his build. So in the Pro Tour lists, they were all using Ledger Shredder as their complementary creature of choice. So 4 Phoenix, 4 Shredder, and maybe 1 copy of Thing in the Ice. Whereas O. Danielakos is playing 4 Phoenix and 4 Thing in the Ice, and no Ledger Shredders.
Okay, just going a bit more against the board. I remember Shredder being particularly good in the Izzet mirrors and such, rather than against creature decks.
Exactly. I mean, Shredder does a little of something very good, controlling the board 1 creature at a time and just improving your draws, giving you that extra discard outlet for the Phoenix. But it rarely wins a game by itself, whereas Thing in the Ice ranges from
meh,
doing nothing at all, exactly, meh, to being just like the biggest haymaker you can imagine for the matchup. It was traditionally your card you turn to against mono green, but I suspected that it would also be an important card against both Greasefang and the Auras deck, which, again, looking at Karsten's win rate matrix, those were the top 2 performing archetypes overall at the Pro Tour. So thinking about this, like, do I expect the people playing at this random paper RCQ to be like very responsive to what happened at the Pro Tour? Do I expect people to pick up Greasefang and pick up Auras based on, what they saw from this data? Or do I think people will just play what they already have, like a more random field? That might tip the scales towards Thing of the Ice or Ledger Shredder one way or the other.
But that's mostly an estimate, right? There's no empirical evidence that we can go off.
Yeah, I think that's right. So I don't actually know still if it's worth going that far down the rabbit hole. The people that I asked about this said, just assume people will just play what they have. They'll play what they like and they play what they have. And that's probably true. Like, I saw maybe a couple more Greasefang decks than there would have been before the Pro Tour. I don't know if I saw any Auras players at this event.
Okay.
So for me, what was decisive was just like, well, I like Thing in the Ice and I own that card. Shredder is expensive and I don't really want to buy too many Shredders. I borrowed a couple from Lawson and did a 3-2 split. So a 3 Thing in the Ice, 2 Shredder.
2 Shredders, more than enough. Except when it isn't. When you gotta play all the Izzet mirrors.
Yeah. And it turns out there were a lot of Izzet players. I think that's the thing that I just forgot, and I'm quickly relearning that people in paper just love their Izzet cards.
People love playing Izzet. People love doing nothing as they draw cards. It's a good feeling.
You just feel like you're having such a great time, right? You feel like you're doing your thing. Even if you're making terrible decisions.
Even if you're losing, you're still doing stuff. I'm casting Consider after pieces of the puzzle. I draw like 7 cards. Did you win? No, but 7 cards.
That's exactly it. Like, I was very keenly aware as I was operating the deck that, boy, I'm rusty. I'm definitely making subpar decisions. I'm spewing value.
But damn, so many decisions.
There's a lot of decisions, but if you don't think about it too hard, if you just enjoy the feeling of resolving your cantrips, you can just have a good time. You can leave with a smile on your face, even though you let the game slip away at several points throughout the game. So yeah, the rust factor was a third big question, right? Apart from, what should I play and what build is correct? The personal part is, can I actually shake off the rust, learn this deck or relearn this deck enough to equip myself well in this tournament? And this part was a lot harder because I just haven't played a big paper event in a while. I've never really done a good job of getting a good night's sleep the night beforehand. You know, I get like a little excited or anxious.
I get super jittery. I'm unable to sleep efficiently before a big tournament or a tournament I'm excited for.
You too?
Yeah.
Do you have any strategies for that?
No, but I just used to not sleeping much.
Yeah, and I think because you're young, you can operate your mind better on less sleep.
On less resources. I can do with what I have.
Exactly. That no longer applies to me, and I just have to admit that now. Because, again, I did not sleep well. I was up too late, just like fiddling with the deck list, browsing through tournament results.
Getting nervous, pondering on the last decisions.
Exactly. And, you know, just threw off my routine for the next day. I woke up, you know, with not enough sleep and, you know, didn't leave enough time to, you know, make sure I had breakfast and packed a lunch and brought water and all that. So the tournament started off and, yeah, I won my first 2 rounds. I beat Mono Green, I beat Boros Burn deck, but I could tell right away that, boy, I'm not, my mind is not thinking through every decision properly. When I got to the rounds 3 and 4, I got paired against blue decks. I got paired against blue-white and Izzet Creativity. Lost both of those rounds. In those cases, I took the first game in both rounds, which is usually a good sign because you look at the sideboard and it's got all these anti-blue cards, you know, cheap counter magic, and etc., etc. Being up a game and bringing in cheap counter magic should be a recipe for success, but I was not able to like win those sideboarded games. Part of that was just me not playing well. Like I definitely missed some triggers. I rushed some decisions. I just like made some bad plays. Also, you know, they were also prepared for the matchups as well. Like blue-white has plenty of tools to just kill all my threats. So I think I probably could have squeezed at least 1 win out of those 2 rounds, possibly both if I'd done things a little differently. And that was a case where, you know, my lack of preparation, my inexperience with the deck, and my just lack of physical preparation definitely came and cost me there. But no one to blame but myself for that. That was a learning experience. I won round 5 against Greasefang. Thing in the Ice was crucial there. And in round 6, at that point, at 3 and 2, I was in 9th place, and the top 8 was able to just draw in clean cut, so it didn't bother to play the last round. Although technically, my opponent scooped, so I got that 9th place finish that we all love.
We all love. Literally the best possible position, 9th. The one you go to cry because it's not enough, but still happy because you did your best.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do my best, but I had fun nevertheless.
We always do our best, even if it doesn't reach out to our full amount. We did try to make our best, and in the Magic tournament, that's all that we can care about.
I definitely like had fun, and it was just like a nice return to paper play. I think, you know, Lawson and I both agreed that, boy, we played pretty badly in this event. we didn't do our best in terms of like setting ourselves up to win the tournament, but it was just nice to be back in the scene. You know, I got to meet some people who were fans of the show, just got to be around a bunch of people excited about Pioneer again, and, you know, seeing all these things that we theory craft and talk about every week, just manifesting at the tables was actually really cool. And we definitely left the event feeling motivated to play more of them.
To come back for the next one.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And speaking of which, my next one is going to be a Modern event, and that's coming up this weekend. Morde, you are our Modern expert, so I'm very curious to hear your take. If you were me, if you're in my situation, how would you approach an RCQ this week?
So, I have not been playing many RCQs, but I try to take them super relaxed. I don't let them get to my head. I just try to play them like I would play any like big, semi-big open, like big FNM. How big are the RCQs you have been playing?
Well, this Pioneer one was about 40 people.
Okay, so they're like small opens.
I think the Modern one will be more, probably 60 or 70.
All right. So a big enough number, so like 6 rounds maybe? 5-6 rounds?
Probably, yeah, 7 rounds, I'm guessing, with, you know, 5 and 1, and 5 1 and 1 will make top 8, most likely.
Yeah. So how would I approach it? I think I would go for a route of trying to find the deck I feel more comfortable with and try to tune it for the actual meta. I wouldn't try to learn something new unless I actually found something new that I would love, but rather I would try to find the deck I feel the most comfortable and go deep into it.
So you're not going to insist that I learn goblins this week and sleeve up the frog tosser bannerets?
I could get you through a whole intensive Goblin trial in 48 hours. Like, we could do Goblin Thursday, just me coaching you through all the Thursday, and we can do it, but...
I mean, I would love Goblin Thursday.
We can do Goblin Thursday, we can have you all propped up for the RCQ, but it has to be the deck. I always find the better results with the deck I'm the most excited for. Not the most powerful, but rather the one I will be the happiest or less tilted when things goes wrong because I feel the most on tune with my deck. I think once you get into the formats like Modern, Pioneer, formats where, I'm not talking about Standard of course because the card pool isn't big enough, but here where the percentage difference between decks doesn't vary more like 3-4% win rate, in a 7-round tournament 3-4% win rate is going to be a lot smaller than your own mental gaming. So playing something you like will be more important than playing the perfect deck.
Alright, well that philosophy makes sense. In practice, what that means for me is there's 2 Modern decks that I'm comfortable with that I enjoy. One of them is Sultai Crabvine.
The usual.
Kind of my fallback deck when I have to play a paper event. I don't think that deck is particularly good these days. It hasn't gotten any new cards in a long time. It really was great against Lurrus, and Lurrus has been banned for a while now.
Rip Lurrus.
Yeah, I find that I'm like at a 55% win rate with Crabvine, which, while that sounds good when you're making a banned announcement, it's in practice not very good for like playing Magic Online leagues or trying to win a tournament. The other deck that I have built, which I thought was retired, is the colorless Eldrazi Stompy, the Serum Powder Eldrazi. This is a deck that mulligans extremely aggressively to try to find Eldrazi Temple. It uses a full set of Serum Powder, trying to exile Eternal Scourges. You can exile them with Serum Powders and Gemstone Caverns. And it plays a whole bunch of creature lands. So it doesn't play the Tron lands, it doesn't play Karn. It's just trying to play a whole pile of Mutavaults and now Mishra's Factories and Blink Moth Nexi that just chip in for damage. This deck was never great. It was like tier 3, tier 2.5. But I had a pretty good results with it. This is years ago. This is like before MH2.
In the good old days. With Simian Spirit Guide.
With Simian Spirit Guide for your turn 1 Chalice of the Void. Exactly. That was like one of the big plays you could do. You could either lead on Eldrazi Temple and a Thought-Knot Seer, or you could go, turn 1 Chalice pretty consistently. Does this deck even exist without Simian Spirit Guide? Well, I figured before I just throw this deck in the trash, I should at least try to update it, right? Because no one's really playing this anymore. I expect it just to suck, but it's actually kind of okay. Like, I played 3 leagues this week. I took it to FNM. My results were 4-1, 4-1, 2-3 in the Magic Online leagues. I went 3-1 at FNM and then 3-3 in Mana Traders. So not amazing, but it was positive overall. I think 16-9 with the deck. And I was actually really enjoying it. Even though I definitely felt that I was playing underpowered cards, it was just like, it gave me life. I really enjoyed just the process of mulliganing and looking for these kind of unusual opening hands where, Eternal Scourge just brings a smile to my face. What do you think about a deck like this? Or given these 2 options, do you feel like either one of these would be a reasonable choice for a Modern event?
I think so. I think more than anything is going to be a reasonable option. I do think Sultai Crabvine might do better, mostly due to the velocity of the format. That's sometimes, without Simian Spirit Guide, Eldrazi decks might fall a tad behind without the Eldrazi Temple hands. You know the hands. Sometimes you just go turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer, turn 3 Smasher, and doesn't matter what the opponent is playing.
Yeah, those don't happen that often. I mean, the biggest problem is that because of Modern Horizons 2, Solitude and Fury are just such a kick in the teeth for all the Eldrazi creatures. All of the creatures that people play in Modern are just like way better than all the Eldrazi.
Smasher doesn't even trade favorably with Solitude because it's spells, not abilities. So it's not even like you can at least say, I got a 2-for-1, I got a 1-for-1. Nope. You paid 5 mana for your opponent's 5 mana flash play to become a 2-for-1.
So if I had to break it down simply, I would say that this Eldrazi deck is actually still pretty good against red, it's good against blue, and it's pretty good against black. It's terrible against white. It's terrible against green. That includes both Amulet and Yawgmoth. And against colorlessly, if someone's playing a bigger Eldrazi deck or a Tron deck, it's also a little bit iffy. Some would say red is the best color in Modern right now, so a deck that is like pretty solid against red cards. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I just want to believe in this deck. I just like intuitively understand that it's underpowered, but
I want to believe in it.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, do I trust that the Eldrazi will let me have fun for the day, even if I'm going to go like 5-2, 4-3?
Alternatively, you can just learn Trash for Treasure deck.
Okay, that's more tempting.
I mean, I'm sure you have some Trash for Treasure lying around in your house.
I do. I have like a whole pile of Trash for Treasure, right?
There's no way you don't have a full playset of Trash for Treasure.
I have Trash for Treasure, but I don't have the rest of the deck, unfortunately.
Shh, that's the easy part.
All right, well, I'll ponder it this week. I'll ponder your counsel, and I'll let you know how it all turns out. All right, so that's my little tournament report section. Next up, we have our news of the week that includes this delicious Trash for Treasure deck. But before we get to those, we do want to talk about some unexpected preview cards. Tell me about March of the Machines.
So we got all ahead spoilers into March of the Machines. They said it's coming out in May, I think, or mid-April. We just got like a heads up. So there's some time for it. Don't worry, everybody. These cards are not coming out like next week. You can still show your one cards, and there's nothing wrong with that. So don't worry, but already got some spoilers for the next set. And there has been some leaks that we're not going to talk about, but for people that care about that, there has been some Lord of the Rings leaks yesterday.
Oh, I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, I know. So there has been 3 cards already leaked and the name of a mechanic. For people that care about that stuff, you're going to be able to find it super easily on Reddit and such.
Okay. Let's keep this leak-free zone. We can't go too far into the future.
Exactly, so. But one of the first cards we got from March of the Machines, or MAM, as we're going to affectionately call it, is the Yuta Takahashi World Champion card, finally given to us, and now we're only missing Nathan Stewart's one. So what do you think of Faerie Mastermind?
Yeah, Faerie Mastermind. 1 in a blue, creature fairy rogue, 2/1 flash flying. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. Activated ability 3 in a blue, each player draws a card. And it says down in the flavor description, Yuta Takahashi, World Champion. Yuta, of course, is Vendilion. That's his Magic Online username. So a little bit of a fairies aficionado. Just a great moment.
Wasn't Yuta... Wasn't Yuta the creator of the Eternal Command deck as well?
I believe that's Shota Yasuoka.
Oh, okay.
Yuta is a longtime Fairies fan, so it's good to see a nice Fairies card here. Did make me think, like, can this revive the Fairies deck? The truth about Fairies is that they're not really a tribe. They're just a philosophy. There's not a single Fairies payoff that I would actually play in Modern these days. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, they're not reasonable payoff for playing Fairies nowadays, like at all. You have a 3-mana Flash Lord, you have Bitter Blossom, you have the 4-mana Champion of Fairy card, and that's like it.
Yeah, so basically a successful Fairies deck would just be a deck that plays a few Fairies for its own purposes. And that's still cool. I mean, Snapcaster's on the outs these days. Is Faerie Mastermind actually better? I kind of think it is. Like, it's a more useful card than Snapcaster. Yuta, when he previewed this card, he said that he expects it to be like relevant in even Vintage and Legacy.
I think it's great in that sort of format. I love how well the ability works. If you activate it on your opponent's end step, it's 4 mana, you draw 2 cards, your opponent draws 1 in a lot of scenarios, which is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it has a little bit of like Notion Thief vibes, like punishing your opponents at flash speed for trying to draw cards. Also has some Spectral Sailor vibes, right? That flashed it in and then
4 mana draw.
4 mana draw. The way that would work is that you would draw 2, they would draw 1. Which, is that good for a tempo deck? I'm actually not sure.
I mean, tempo decks don't care about their opponent getting resources as they try to win while your opponent can't use them. Not because they don't have it, but rather because they didn't have the velocity for it.
So you think that draw 2 and opponent draws 1 is functionally the same as just Spectral Sailor, you draw one.
I think for a tempo deck it might be better even.
Oh, really? Okay.
This is of course talking in formats without free spells, where your opponent's velocity doesn't depend on having more cards. Because in Modern, for example, your velocity is exponentialized if you have more cards due to pitch spells and such, while in Pioneer this is not the truth. Having more cards doesn't make you more faster.
Yeah, so that would be like a strike against the Faerie Mastermind in Modern, but I still choose to believe that this card will make it. It seems better than Mercurial Spelldancer just because of having Flash.
Oh yeah. Also, it would be amazing if you can flash this in, like your opponent goes, you go turn 2 open mana, your opponent goes turn 2 Let's Shredder Mistral Bubble, you flash this in response to a Surveil trigger, get a free draw out of it immediately. Because... Sorry, not Surveil, how did I forget the name?
The Connive?
Yeah, Connive. Like, Connive is not a maze, so we automatically get a draw.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's going to be super important. If this comes up, Faerie Mastermind versus Shredder, you can force them to connive.
In particular, in Pioneer, it might be super common or such.
If this becomes a major card in the metagame, you'll have to think carefully about when you sack your Mishra's Bubbles, and which turn you're drawing that card on. So yeah, it's a very interesting card. I think this is the most promising one for sure of the previews we saw.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it has to be the most interesting one as a playable card.
Yeah, David has a note here that he really likes it in conjunction with the Narset Parter of Veils, which will prevent the opponents from drawing their second card. So again, there's cute ways to make that 3 in a blue each player draws.
Does this work with Narset Parter of Veils?
Well, if you have a Narset down and you activate the Faerie Mastermind on... Oh, I see. Actually, yeah, it doesn't actually make a difference.
Like, you're never using the second ability.
Well, you'll still be +1 card, so it's... Maybe you just don't need a Narset.
Yeah.
Okay. Next card up. Moment of Truth.
Super simple card, 1 and a blue, instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand, one into your graveyard, one on the bottom. Efficient, nice. I actually quite like this card, especially as a common.
For Pauper purposes, or just because these effects should be common?
Yeah, for Pauper purposes. And I think it's also an interesting card. Like, I don't know if we will see Pioneer play, but wouldn't surprise me either, you know? The efficiency of choosing out of 3, 1 graveyard, 1 hand.
It's a new effect. We haven't seen this exact effect before. We've seen Anticipate. We've seen Anticipate plus a bonus. We've seen, Curate, which is Surveil 2 draw. This is slightly more selection up front in exchange for slightly less graveyard action, right? You only get 1 card in the graveyard, but that's the reason you would play this card, is because you want the ability to put 1 card in your graveyard.
Yeah.
If you compare it to the sorcery speed versions, like Strategic Planning, where you just
put 2 in the graveyard.
Put 2 cards in the graveyard, right? That's just like a much more powerful effect that itself is not super playable. Going to instant speed is worth a lot.
I think the difference is if you care about having specific cards in your graveyard or having cards in your graveyard. Like, you have death spells, or do you have Phoenixes that you're trying to surgically select into your graveyard?
Mm-hmm.
If you're just trying to pinpoint specific stuff into the graveyard, I think this is a lot better as an instant.
Yeah, the difference between instant and sorcery is night and day. They're almost not even in the same class.
Yeah.
I suspect this is just slightly too weak. It's not quite enough. I think in a couple years they'll print this again with another bonus tacked on.
Yeah, Surveil 2 and then do the rest.
Yeah, or do this and gain a life or something. And then if that doesn't work, they'll do it again with 2 life.
So this card, lore-wise, sort of proves a long-expected theory that Elspeth is an angel. The small feathers place wings on her back at the sides and she returning.
What would that mean if that were true?
So Elspeth having celestial powers like angelic powers will put her over the top in power level and likely be a good enough of a threat for the Phyrexians.
What? Why would her having angelic powers make a difference?
It's just trying to be pretty powerful in MTG lore. The only one stopping Olivia in Innistrad, not so, and in the few sets ago, was Sigarda's Host of Angels.
But the Phyrexians have their own angels. They have Atraxa. No. All right, we'll see. All of this will be sorted out in March of the Machines and March of the Machines, The Aftermath.
Yeah, so next we have Heliod, the Radiant Dawn. 2 and double white for a legendary enchantment creature god. When it enters the battlefield, return target enchantment card that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand. But more importantly, you can pay 3 and a Phyrexian blue mana to transform Heliod into Heliod the Warped Eclipse. A Phyrexian god that allows you to cast your spells as though they had flash, and spells you cast cost 1 less for each card your opponent has drawn this turn. Super weird combination of abilities.
My gut says the backside is just flavor text. Like, you would only play this if you wanted the 4/4 enchantment that draws a card. Which, to me...
This could have been a 3 mana 3/3, right?
It would be definitely more powerful if it was cheaper.
3 mana 3/3, and then also have the flip ability. Would be a lot better.
Yeah, I think they were trying to nerf the card by making you pay 4.
Yeah.
The thing is that putting something into your hand is just not powerful these days. The hand is not a good zone.
It's not good enough.
Like, this is not necessarily better than just ETB draw a card. It's possibly worse.
Not only that, but enchantments are not in a particularly good spot when compared to any other type of card.
So if I had Enigmatic Incarnation and I played it and I sacked my Fable of the Mirror Breaker, would I ever get a Heliod to get my Fable back into my hand, or would I just get something else?
You could, I don't think impossible you get a Heliod. Like, this card might see Fringe play in Enigmatic just as a 4/4 creature enchantment to put into 5. Like, right now, the best 4-drop you have in Pioneer, for example, to put into as a 4-drop is like Omnath, which is super medium because Omnath on end step is not particularly good and you're not playing fetch lands. But this, get back a Fable, next turn flip it and start playing an instant speed with Enigmatic doesn't suck.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing it. I mean, yeah, one of an Enigmatic, perhaps. There are enchantments you might return, like David notes Shark Typhoon and Cast Out here in the show notes. But I think we all agree that these kind of just mid-range 4/4s that get a little value, they're a little bit outclassed these days.
Yeah. They just got a touch too small.
From there, we have a new style of legendary. They're going full Avengers Endgame team-ups, legendary team-ups. Every plane, 2 famous legends or more are teaming up to make a single card. Most of these are not that playable, so we're going to skip Thalia and the Gitrog monster. We're going to skip Drina and Linvala.
Yeah, Drina Limbala is a Commander All-Star. For any Commander lovers, you should get that card because it's going to cost a small fortune due to Commander only. Just letting everybody know that.
A team up that we will talk about is Yargle and Multani. Yargle and Multani.
For all the wrong reasons, right?
I mean, I don't know. You tell me.
The only text we have below this card is the 4 magnificent words, Cragganwick Cremator lives again. I will let anybody do with that as they wish.
It's 3 black, green, legendary creature, frog, spirit, elemental. So they're basically giving all of the creature types of the individual legends and just mashing them up together here.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is like meant to be like they actually like became biologically married now, or they're just
no. I think Multani is just able to, like, if you look at the art, you see like the tree form of Multani like embracing around Yargle's body, like empowering it like an armor, sort of.
Okay.
So it's like just the wood like turning itself around Yargle as a small armor, and Multani's head like standing right next to him like a 2-headed ogre.
I see. So Yargle famously is a 9/3 creature. Yargle and Multani is an 18/6 creature with no abilities.
And they managed to, even in the only no ability card in a few years, have a lot of text via an enormous flavor text.
Yeah, very cute little card here for sure. Why does this card matter? Well, 18 power is the largest we have on a card right now that you can play in Modern and Pioneer. What are cards that just translate that power directly into winning the game? The closest one is Cragganwick Cremator. This is a 2 red for a 5/4 giant. When it enters, you have to discard a card at random. if you happen to discard a creature this way, you get to deal damage equal to the power of that creature to any target. Previously, the best you could do was 16 power with Impervious Great Worm, but Yargle lets you do it for 18.
So we haven't reached the point yet. Where is the exact amount of damage where you say in Modern, this is a one-shot? We always use 20 as a banner. Like, 20 damage is enough to win you games where opponent doesn't win life. We use 20 damage as a benchmark for a one-shot kill. But in Modern, we all know most of our opponents are about to take at least 1 or 2 points of damage. Is 18 enough to say it's a one-shot?
I think so. For me, it is.
I think 18 might. Like 19, I'm sure. I'm 99% sure my opponent is bound to take 1 point of damage in the length of a normal Modern game. And I can embrace that 19 is lethal. 18 is right down, is where I put the line that I'm not sure. Like 17 I wouldn't, like ever.
Yeah, and 15 we know is not lethal, as we've seen from the Calibrated Blast deck.
From the old versions.
Well, yeah, also the old versions of this deck. It's 5-0'd in the past with Impervious Great Worm for 16. The way that you build the deck is you probably play Strangleroot Geist and Eldritch Evolution. I think that's a good way to get that chip damage in and make sure that you have access to the Cremator when you want it. Yeah,
the fact that one guy's connecting once is enough is pretty amazing. The question is, how do we find Yargle? We just naturally draw it, or are we set enough to run like El Alambre Skull?
Yeah, that's a question I do not know the answer to yet.
El Alambre Skull does also find the Cremator, so it's like a double shot. It's like triggers everything. Pitch Elementals, Hepsta's Kid are hand empty. Okay, there might be something.
Yargle is black-green. It does not pitch to Fury, so I don't know if that's bad or good. It's definitely off-plan. Like, if this were just a red-green card, we'd be very happy, because then whenever you don't have the combo set up, you just pitch Yargle to Fury, and you're doing your red-green beatdown thing. It's 6 mana. You could theoretically take a 4-drop and Eldritch Evolution that to get your 18 power into play. I don't know if that's actually worth it, but it's something to think about. Where Impervious Great Worm had Convoke, but was otherwise just very difficult to get into play.
Yeah. All right, yeah. A 6 mana 18-6 can just randomly win a game.
Maybe.
I can see someone dying to opponent hitting them with a Yargle, and I can feel the tilt already.
So the last time that I played Cragganwick Cremator, I tried to combine Through the Breach with... so I had like Emrakul as my 15, right? I said 15 was as good as 16 so that I can play Through the Breach and Cragganwick Cremator. Do you think it would work to Through the Breach a Yargle?
No, I'm never gonna Through the Breach.
What about Goryo's Vengeance?
Oh, no.
No?
Why would you Goryo's Vengeance that instead of Emrakul?
Because 15 does not win the game, but 18 might.
But Annihilator 6 kinda does.
It depends. If you do it too early, it doesn't win the game.
This is the most unblockable thing I have ever seen. Like, if I can imagine the pain in someone's eye as I play a Mogwar Marshal and they have the Goryo's Vengeance for this.
They solitude it. I gain 18 life. Proceed to scoop up my cards.
Proceed to scoop with my 18 life?
All right, there's one more silly team up we can mention. This is the Dinosaur Vampire combo. The Ixalan team up. This is your set, Morde.
Why? Just because of the team ups? Because of the Avengers set?
No, because you're an Ixalan fan.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I just love Ixalan. Oh, Ixalan, such a good set. Oh, Mavren, a character with such deep lore and continuity that makes absolute sense in the world is set up. Ghalta and Mavren, two of the least flavor-working characters in the history of Magic, together once again. So we have a 3 of any color, 2 green, 2 white, legendary creature, dinosaur, vampire. For a 12/12 trampler that whenever you attack, you get to choose one. Create a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures. Or X11 white vampire creature tokens, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So you can either double your attackers or make another huge one.
So the reason this card might be relevant is because you can put it into play with Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord. It's currently the biggest vampire that you can put into play. Previously, that honor belonged to Xander, is that right? The one from Capenna? Lord Xander?
Yeah.
Who had an ETB trigger. He would make your opponent discard half the cards in their hand. Also had a kind of awkward attack trigger that milled half their deck, which was often a downside, like that sometimes lost you the game. And that was only 7/7. Ghalta, you put this in on turn 3 with a Sorin. If you had another vampire in play, you could actually get value immediately off of this attack trigger.
Yeah.
If you have like a Gifted Aetherborn and a Knight of the Ebon Legion in play, you're probably winning this game. But I don't know. Does this actually solve any problems?
I don't think so, but I am gonna, at least once in my lifetime, play a Sorin -3 and put in Ghalta and Mavren, and then I might lose, but I'm gonna do that once, at least. The result of that once might depend on the existence of second and third.
So that's just an interaction to be aware of. I think that Sorin is actually getting reprinted in a secret lair, so if you want to pick up your playset, now is the time to do that. Those are the team-ups, and from there, the last cards we can look at are just some of the Phyrexian baddies. Shall we go to Omnath?
We can go to something we all memed about, never expected to happen, and just hits us all across the face. Dan, tell us about the Locus of All.
Omnath is black now. All 5 colors, Wooburg, except the black mana is Phyrexian. That's actually pretty cute, pretty flavorful. Means that you can play it for 4 and 2 life, or for 5. Still a 4/4, this time a Phyrexian elemental. Static text, if you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. A little callback to the original Omnath text of hoarding your unspent mana. In addition to that, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols in its mana cost, and if you do that, then you get to add 3 mana in any combination of colors and draw the card, the one that you revealed. If the card on top of your deck does not have 3 or more colors, you don't get the mana. You don't reveal it, but you do get to draw it. So you're drawing a card no matter what. And if you're lucky, or if you've built a very golden color pip and intensive deck, you'll be, ritualing and drawing every turn, which, while very powerful, it's a bad trigger. Like, this is the worst time for a trigger to happen, beginning of your pre-combat main phase.
Yeah, it becomes, in any way, shape, or form, impossible to get it before your next turn, before you get a draw step, and before your opponent can kill it like 16 times. Important to let know, 3 or more color mana symbols. For example, you can get Talion the Gitrog monster, you can get Mavren and Ghalta, you can get Yargle and Multani. It doesn't say different, it says 3 or more.
Oh, okay. That's nice. Yeah, but even despite that, I just don't think this one...
No.
This one has it.
I mean, it's a 4 mana 4/4 that ramps you and allows you to draw an extra card every single turn. I don't think it's gonna be unplayable. I'm just not sure if it will see any play. Like, this isn't one of the cards I will like, yeah, this is never gonna see any play.
From Omnath, we have Jin-Gitaxias. No commas, just Jin-Gitaxias.
The first of the 5th. Every single one of them is gonna get a new card.
It's terrifying design. A monster creature on the front that transforms into a saga, and then when the saga completes, it transforms back into a creature. To me, Jin-Gitaxias is not playable. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I think it's too expensive to get to the side of the saga. The saga is extremely powerful. Draw cards equal to a number of cards in your hand, followed by a bounce everything. And then you may cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. Like, if this flips, you're winning likely. But you have to spend 9 combined mana for that.
Yeah, the problem is the front side of Jin-Gitaxias, the creature side, doesn't pass the test. It's 3 blue for a 5/5 ward 2. And it does not have an enter the battlefield trigger. So that's the problem. It has interesting static text that says whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, you draw a card. But, if we wanted that, we would just play Karuga instead. Karuga is a much more forgiving way to profit off of your leyline bindings.
Yeah.
So I think, for me, Jin-Gitaxias is not it for constructed. I think Imrith Desert Doom is just like a better card at the same cost. It's a cool card for sure for Commander and such. Lastly, do you have any hope for this new Chandra the Hope's Beacon?
So, Chandra Housekeeping on 6 mana Legendary Planeswalker Chandra. Passive ability, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it, and you may choose new targets, triggers only once each turn. +2 at 2 mana of any color, +1, exile the top 5 cards, and you may cast any instant or sorcery until the end of your next turn. -X, Kayat, and Chandra deals X damage to each of up 2 targets. So this 6 mana with a powerful passive, when she enters, she can deal up to 8 distributed damage, like kill 2 creatures with 4 toughness immediately. The problem is you gotta pay 6 mana for a planeswalker that has to survive and has no way of going through counter spells or anything.
Once Chandra Hope's Beacon is in play, it feels just like completely insane, like the strongest Chandra ever. Once it's in play, but it's 6. It doesn't have that counterspell protection.
Yeah.
That static text is nuts.
The static text, like, I can think of something like playing her on turn 6, +2, play something like a Bolt or any spell interactive spell, and just getting it double can be enough for her to survive.
Should I try to cheat her into play somehow? Like, or should I just ramp to her?
Maybe just in one of those chunky red decks, like Prison decks, where you can just ritual this out on turn 4 and control the game.
I feel like as a fair card, just like a power value card, she's checks all the boxes, but I wonder if there's like some sneaky combo with that static text that we haven't thought of it yet.
I think
that makes it worth it trying to cheat her in.
The once per turn is in place to stop exactly that.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, she's made trying for us to never combo out with her. Just get our value.
All right. Well, a cool card nevertheless. I think that's where we're going to leave it for these early previews. We're going to skip the last few. I don't think they're going to make it in Constructed.
Yeah, I mean, neither. Commander and Commander likely. But then you have some beautiful picks for today, right?
Oh, some beautiful ones. I'm excited for this. Worth the wait. We got 2 picks, both in Modern. Morde, I'm going to turn it over to you first. Tell me about the Trash for Treasure.
Oh, Graaz for Treasure. I can't believe this deck managed to top a challenge, but here we are. So, everybody knows how Trash for Treasure. In this podcast, we have talked non-stop about this card in different occasions. 3 mana sorcery, sacrifice an artifact, return an artifact from graveyard to play. So, in the past 10 years, the only thing worth coming back was Sundering Titan and Wurmcoil, then all of a sudden, Phyrex and Dragon Engine and Portal to Phyrexia came into play as the best threats. And all of a sudden, we're being told that there's actually something better. Something better to do with all these Scrapwork Mats and Boldran Epicures and Seasoned Pyromancer tokens. Why not make them into Juggernauts?
My god. This card is just like such like a walking meme, and yet it's here as 3 copies in a deck that made top 8 in the Modern Challenge. Graaz Unstoppable Juggernaut. 8 mana legendary artifact creature Juggernaut. 7/5. It's got the Juggernaut text, so your Juggernauts attack every turn. They have to attack, and they can't be blocked by walls. And all other creatures that you control have base power and toughness 5/3 and are Juggernauts in addition to their other types. So it just makes everything a Juggernaut now. Is that a game-winning card?
I mean, so I went ahead and shoutouts to the winner, Kalua777, wrote an in-depth guide about the deck in Reddit, actually went into a good amount of detail into the deck selection, and actually made me consider the fact that Graaz is actually good for his deck when he went into it. I have played against this sort of deck, I have played against this sort of deck with Goblins and with other decks, and this sort of deck cannot beat Goblins, for example. You don't have enough removal, you don't have interaction. So if the game goes long, you're just gonna get jumped out of your Sundering Titan, or you're just gonna... Your threats are not gonna add up. Like, if you're playing against a combo deck, your Portal to Phyrexia nor your Sundering Titan do anything. So going turn 3 Trash for Treasure is not gonna win you the game. But if you win something like turn 1 Ragavan, turn 2 Seasoned Pyromancer, turn 3 Graaz, hit you for 20, now that actually might be fast enough. And you have a lot of bad creatures in this deck that actually get huge. Hayward Might, Boulder Epicure, Goblin Engineer, Scrapwork Mat, Season Pyromancer tokens, Ursa Saga tokens, Experimental Synthesizer Samurais, etc, etc, etc. Everything becomes a 5-3.
Yeah, the write-up was great. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. You can find it on the Modern subreddit. They kept referring to Graaz as Craterhoof Behemoth.
Yeah, and an important thing, they were willing to admit it was worse than Behemoth. They were willing to admit all the flaws the card has, that it can get removed. But also to say, this card won me a lot of games. Sometimes opponents don't have the Leyline Binding. And a 7-5 that, because everything 5-3 comes all of a sudden, you're not expecting it a lot of the time. I would never play around Graaz. If my opponent has 3 1-1s and I am at 12, I'm not leaving back a champ blocker.
Right, exactly.
I'm not. Why would I? And all of a sudden, my opponent is gonna go third step on the Ursa Saga, get an Underworld Cookbook, discard with a Cookbook, put Graaz into the graveyard, trash for treasure, kill you. And I'm gonna tilt and it's gonna be correct. That's what Graaz does.
So what I love about this deck is that, well, the pilots said they've been working on this for a long time. They've been a trash for treasure player ever since Goblin Engineer was printed. They've been trying to make this deck work. And you can kind of see all of that in the deck list. Like, it's got a lot of new cards. It's been gradually replacing the sketchy stuff with more playable stuff. So you look at the deck list and there's not that many bad cards in here, right? Ragavan, Voldaren Epicure, Scrapwork Mutt we really like. It's beautiful synergy here with the Trash for Treasure discard outlet. It even unearths a 5-3 with haste when Graaz is in play. Goblin Engineer, of course, it's there to set up stuff like a combo, but it's not just that, right? Like they talk in the primer about how the one copy of Phyrexian Dragon Engine is a huge threat with the Goblin Engineer, right? So you play it like a Stoneforge Mystic where you assume it's going to die, but you can maybe set up for your second Engineer, and if it ever doesn't die, you can just start looping a Dragon Engine and an Experimental Synth to just draw as many cards as you need to. Seasoned Pyromancer, both halves of it making tokens, right? Exiling from the graveyard to make tokens, which become 5-3s.
He admitted the inefficiency of Synthesizer in this particular deck, that most of the time it's not going to be a 2-for-1, it's going to be like a 1.6-for-1, because you have a lot of heavy misses, Grass, Sundering, Portal. You have 3 or 4 cards that you're never going to be able to cast, and he says that's fine. Synthesizer is so powerful with what the deck is trying to do that it's something you have to be fine with.
Yeah, and you can always sort of get bailed out. There's 4 Urza Sagas here, there's 4 Ragavans here, so you're not really playing bad cards. Some of the lines might take a little practice, right? Like playing the Saga on turn 1 is not that intuitive, but it does allow you to get that Underworld Cookbook on turn 3, which is your discard outlet to set the Trash for Treasure. Like that could be your play, depending on your opening hand. So definitely just like a sweet archetype, a sweet space to play around in, this artifact reanimator. We've been saying this for a while, that between blood tokens, between Scrapwork Mutt and Engineer, there's a lot of ways for artifacts specifically to loot things into the graveyard. It's just missing that payoff. I did not think Graaz would be that payoff, but I'm happy to be proven wrong.
Apparently it is, and we never saw it coming.
Yeah, amazing job by Kalua777.
Yeah. And
our final deck for today, our second pick of the week, is another brew that has just been dominating in the modern challenges.
By Hank the Obese.
Yes, MTGO user Hank the Obese has apparently been playing variations of this deck in different formats for a while and just decided one day that the time was right to unleash it on Modern. And they've racked up 4 challenge top 8s in the last 2 weeks alone, which is shocking to me. Because when you look at this deck, mono white humans, the cards that phrase conjures into your mind
are not good.
And they would not get you very close to what's in this deck. This is like a free spell pitch humans aggro deck. Free spell is 4 solitudes, 4 Chancellor of the Annex, so when you reveal that from your opening hand, it taxes your opponent's first spell of the game by 1 mana. And 4 Shining Shoals. Shining Shoal is one of the original pitch spells from Champions of Kamigawa, It's X white white, and it redirects X damage from one source to another. But you can pitch a white card to it and set the value of X that way without paying any mana. Well, what are you going to pitch to it? I mean, if you're playing, 1-drop humans, you don't have that much exciting stuff to pitch. But you have the Chancellors, they pitch for 7, and you also have 4 Ameria's Call, which is just here to be a land, right? You're never going to cast Ameria's Call here. It's a land that pitches for 7 for a 7-point Shining Shoal, or it pitches to your Solitude.
Super efficiently.
Yeah, exactly. So that's your free package, and then to actually turn the Shining Shoal into a win, you have to pressure the life total. You're looking at a cheap humans curve with 12 1-drops, 10 2-drops, 12 2-drops, and 4 3-drops.
I want to make a super important declaration that I haven't realized until right now. The last 3 challenges on Fridays, Hank the Abyss has went 3rd, 7th, and 11th. So in 3 consecutive challenges, 2 top 8s and a top 12, with the exact same deck list.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it should work, but clearly it is working. What are the creatures? Well, Champion of the Parish, Esper Sentinel, these are the best 1-drop humans. Dauntless Bodyguard is the other one in this list, although I've seen versions where he's playing Hopeful Initiate instead. At 2 mana, Luminarch Aspirant, Thalia's Lieutenant, 4 of each. 2 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, 2 Rafine's Informant. That's another way to just convert that Chancellor in your hand
into something.
Yeah, something new, and a 3/2 creature is not the worst.
Thalia only a 2-off because of the 4 Shoal instead of the usual playset.
Ah, interesting, yeah. And then 4 Adeline. 3 mana is actually kind of a lot for a 20-land deck, but Adeline is maybe just so powerful that it's worth it.
Sometimes turn 5 Adeline is still good enough.
In the lands, we see 4 Cavern of Souls, we see 3 Mutavaults. So really there's games where you're going to be constrained on white mana. I watched Lawson stream this last night. He went 4-0 against the red decks. Turning their Unholy Heats back at them was just a back-breaking play. But he had trouble against the other matchups. I think he lost against the non-red decks. So it can be an awkward deck. Like, if you're not used to hands like this, you just look at the cards and they just seem mismatched. But, clearly it works. So maybe it's just, we need to keep practicing with this and rethink what a white weenie humans deck is capable of with access to these free cards.
I think I'm just surprised by the interaction of how well this works against either Fury, making it so your opponent went from killing 2 of your creatures to actually losing 4 life, or with Unholy Hit. Protecting an Adeline from an Unholy Hit making your opponent take 6 has to be amazing.
So if my opponent pitches to Fury to wipe out my board,
make them take 4.
I have a Shining Shoal, so they just hit themselves for 4 instead. Oh my god. Yeah, if red is the best color in Modern, this is the deck for that metagame.
Yeah, if you look at the boarded Druid decks and such, you're gonna see they're playing 4 main deck Burrenton, so clearly we're playing a red in a red format.
Oh, 4 Burrenton Forge Centers in the main deck?
Yeah. Here he has 4 Sanctifier in the sideboard instead of the Burrenton because they're a human, but yeah. Going ahead with just 4 Sanctifier.
We haven't really seen humans be a player in Modern, but if you look at how you would put the sideboard together, there's 4 Sanctifier, 2 Drannith Magistrate, 3 Containment Priest, 2 Sanctum Prelate, 3 Leyline of Sanctity, 1 Emrakul for anti-Miltech. These are all good options that have been, individually added to Modern over the last few years and to little fanfare. Like, they haven't really made an impact on the format, but they're useful and they're humans, so don't forget about them.
Never forget about the humans. But yeah, I think that is it for us today. 2 beautiful deck lists. And we're not gonna go into depth with it, but there was also a Slitherwisp deck list getting a top 4 on a paper RCQ. So congrats to someone who finally made Slitherwisp win something.
Yes. Leyline Binding.
Leyline Binding.
So yeah, if you want more details on all of this, you can check out the extended show notes. That's a benefit available to all of our Patreon supporters. Still 1 day left to cast your vote for the next card. But yeah, we will let you all know how that all turns out next week.
Exactly. So thanks so much, everybody. Hope you have a lovely day and see you soon. Bye-bye.
deck list for this episode can be found at our homepage, faithlessbrewing.com. And tune in next time for new brews featuring Elesh Norn, plus testing results with Mind Splice Apparatus. Support for this podcast is provided by brewers like you. Join the Faithless family and help support the show at patreon.com/faithlessbrewing for Discord access, bonus content, and more. That's all for today. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.